Hello and welcome to another episode.
Oh.
Ooh.
Huh.
Is it supposed to be smoking like that?
Is it meant to be here?
I'm gonna say no, because neither of us knows how to drive.
Yeah.
Neither of us would drive a Cybertruck.
How? They've not been on sale that long. How is it that rusty already?
I hear people are just pissing up them for a laugh.
That would explain the rust splash pattern.
Which is weird, because, they do build, urinals out of stainless steel, and...
Well, apparently these are made of stained by piss steel, I guess.
And rain.
And rain.
And apparently cannot roll over an intro without breaking down and most of the panels falling off and catching fire. It's got the fishy smell of burning electrics.
Yeah, it really has sort of broken down in the middle of the intro here, hasn't it?
Do you want to push, mate?
No, don't touch it. It's just fancy.
Oh yeah, I might corrode the panels even
Ooh.
further. The panels that are on the floor. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet-Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet-Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's
And
us,
our
we're
cat.
wifey types, yeah, I was gonna say, and our cat, who is joining us for recording today, talk about media we've consumed in the week and have a little catch-up with some silly voices and skits and just have a bit of a silly time.
A catch-up.
Oh, how you doing?
Yeah... decreasing body abilities. Soreness.
Yeah. I'm busy. I'm tired physically and mentally from extra work projects and having to rearrange rooms for construction people to faff about in them. So, yeah, that's not been fun this week. But you know what has been fun? Some of the media we've consumed in the week that we can talk about, including things we've played this week.
Well, tell us some things that you played then.
Where to even start? I'll get this one out the way nice and quick. I've been playing more Hades 2.
Yes.
I continue to very much enjoy Hades. I think that game has a fantastic amount of depth and some really interesting design choices. Depth. And I love this game and I'm going to be playing it for ages. I do have an accessibility issue with this game that didn't show up until maybe 25 hours into my playing it.
Mm-hmm. And it does involve a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah, so I won't go into depth on it here, but if you're curious, you can go watch this week's episode of Accessibility. The gist of it, the game changes the rules of how you can interact with it at a certain point, briefly, in a way that removes access to necessary accessibility accommodations. Probably not out of malice, but out of a lack of thought about the consequences of a gimmick idea they had.
We were so focused on whether or not it would be cool to do a thing.
Yeah, and I don't deny, thematically I get what they're going for, and I think the gotcha, is going to land well for a lot of people.
Gotcha.
But I also have spent a lot of this week going, game is good. I really got a bunch picked with this one design element on it. But that's Hades 2 update, basically. I have been playing some new stuff this week, though. I've been playing a bit of Little Kitty Big City.
How is the little kitty?
It's adorable.
How is the big city?
Oh, it's big. It's Big City. So for anyone who's not seen this, Little Kitty Big City is a game in which you play a little black cat who's fallen out of an apartment window and is trying to get back to the apartment. But it's not strictly a game of, how quickly can I make it back to my apartment that is my home. It's, we got a journey home to make, but I've got a lot of mischief and exploration to do along the way. It is an incredibly beautifully animated game in terms of very exaggerated expressions on this cat. It's a very emotive cat. It's somewhat in the vein of something like Untitled Goose Game, in that it's another silly game about running around a small community causing animal-based mischief, but where Untitled Goose Game was kind of angry, vengeful mischief. Humans, you suck, I'm going to do things and then run away honking.
Taking revenge on the home counties.
Yeah, this is there's an achievement for knocking all the flower pots off of the wall they're perched on, and then you're like, oh no, you couldn't be mad at me. Oh no,
I'm so done good.
It's adorable. You couldn't hold it against me, chaos, and that is a distinct, appreciably different kind of chaos.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
You're not chasing a small child into a phone booth.
No, but you might be jumping around on top of the shelves in like a little corner shop, smashing jam jars off of the top of shelves, while the woman who runs the shop is trying to get you, and you're like, can't get me.
I believe there is a small budgie on TikTok that would absolutely approve of those actions.
It is a game that like has objectives, but they're all very get around to them when you get around to them based. It's not like there is a clear, this is my path of progression and I'm trying to get there. It is a lot more cool. I know that I'm trying to find 25 shiny things for a crow, and that'll probably do something. I know I gotta collect some feathers, and I don't know what I gotta do with them yet, but it's, I'm trying to like, I tripped over a human who was holding a sandwich to steal their slice of bread, to put it down so birds would eat the bread, so I could pounce, and I let the bird go, but so I could get a feather, and I'm collecting feathers. I met a tanuki that created a magic portal to a bin, and I travelled through a psychedelic portal.
Excellent.
I did a painting, I stepped in some paint and walked over a man's painting. It is charming and wholesome, and I'm having a lovely time with it. I played like an hour of it on stream and was like, this is lovely. I'm not going to play any more of this on stream. This is going to be my chill, unwind, no brain, not for work game for a bit. It's the rest of this is going to be for me. So yeah, Little Kitty Big City, pretty charming so far.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, on the subject of Hades 2, I played a less good dungeon smashy thing RPG.
You played a thing from a developer that I recently played something from.
Yes, I played Going Under by Aggro Crab, which is the people who made Another Crab's Treasure. It's got some fun ideas.
Yes.
It's basically doing like procedural dungeon crawling. It's got the basic premise is you've been hired as an intern to work for a company. You were hoping to do marketing, but for some reason your boss is like, no, you're going down this tube and you're going to fight fight goblins. They're not goblins. That's with a J. There's like interesting like business based ideas about like the various weapons you're picking up. Like initially you're just picking up like keyboards and things from these offices, and the plot is basically unraveling of. There is this big multinational that is regularly absorbing smaller businesses, and as soon as those smaller businesses don't do wonderfully based on all the decisions that the AI that is running this company or running the subsidiaries, as soon as that isn't sort of perfect and massive money making, then those companies go under, and that basically means that all the employees are cursed and turn into sort of demonic workers of various kinds, and eventually the owner of that company will become the boss of that particular dungeon. You've got your initial theme of running around offices. The next one I think it's more sort of like mines, like an old western type mine filled with skeleton warriors, and the whole bit there is about Bitcoin mining. There is even like one of the items that you can pick up and smash people around with is a miner. Yeah, some of it's like really very clever and funny. The overall combat wasn't really to my taste. It does do the same thing as Another Crab's Treasure of having like an accessibility mode of you can add more health, or you can make your weapons more durable because this game has weapon durability. You can lower the amount of damage that enemies can do to you. But even despite having whacked those up to max, I am really struggling with some of the later levels in this game.
Yeah.
And like I get that it wants to do the whole like difficult combat thing, but even with the options it has, what I need is a gun.
You need the gun.
I need a gun 4 times bigger than myself. But this game does not include that, and I don't even know when I got this game. I just know that at some point I had it, and it's been showing up on my Steam to play next.
Yeah.
Because it's rated verified on Steam Deck. I've enjoyed some of the humour of it. I've enjoyed some of the ideas. I got through the first 3 sets of dungeons and the main first half of the story. But the second bit, which is almost a new game plus, which is basically play through all of the dungeons again, there will be harder enemies and new types of weapons and stuff. But ultimately, it's just kind of doing the same thing. And the final boss will have a different attack patterns and things like that. But ultimately, is go through the game twice and. Really, I just want more story. I don't really care about.
You're coming up against the situation I came up with with that game, which is I didn't finish it either. I thought a lot of its narrative themes were really interesting. Its presentation was interesting. It wasn't the greatest game moment to play, but I'd have been willing to forgive that to get through the narrative, if not for the fact that the difficulty meant that the narrative was too far spread apart for me to want to push through the so-so gameplay.
Yeah, and I was finding the controls not as responsive as I would like for something that wants me to be that solid at combat.
It's a little sluggish.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not to say it's a bad game. There's a lot that's interesting in there.
Yeah.
And you can see the DNA of what eventually becomes this studio working on another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah.
You can see the first baby steps in a lot of the sort of the way they wanted to make a game but weren't necessarily ready to. So it's interesting in the context of knowing what their next game ends up being.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going on. I've been playing it, and I probably won't play much more of it. I think I've had about as much as I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
What about you? What else have you played?
I played a little bit of a few different things. I played the opening hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, of a game called Tales of Kenzara Zao. This is a game that is published by EA Originals, which is EA's, publishing label for indie games.
Right.
It's we would like to get some award nomination at the end of the year, maybe for stuff that gets put in the Games for Change category, or the Games for Impact category, alongside your games tackling minority stories. EA Originals quite often will publish those that flavor of indie game.
Yeah.
And Tales of Kenzara Zao is a Metroidvania about grief and loss and dealing with emotions around that. It's interesting having recently replayed the first Hellblade, in that obviously it's not with the layer of dealing with psychosis, but it feels like they're both very similar games in terms of setting up. I am so struck with grief over a relative's death that I'm going to do the trope of the journey to or alongside death in the hopes of bringing back my loved one, but it seems like ultimately the answer will be come to terms with the fact they're dead. But the twist here narratively that I think is interesting is this main character basically makes a deal with death. Hey, we'll go find these 3 spirits and we'll do this quest together, and then I'll get my father back. But the downside is, if he does not complete the quest, death will take him instead. And that leaves very little room for what I would have expected the outcome to be, which is I come to terms with my guilt, my grief and my sorrow, and walk away from the quest. So I'm curious narratively what they're going to do with that.
Yeah.
It is set in a sort of futuristic setting. It reminded me a lot of some of the. I was talking to a reviewer about this for Control Alt Access, and it was reminding me of Kazai Moto Fire Generation in terms of the Afrofuturism elements of its design. But one thing I think this game really, really nails is every time this side-on perspective Metroidvania has, like, an establishing shot of a new environment, or new location, it's got a really good sense for coming up with one element of the environment that's really memorable and, like, helps to stick that location in your head quite well. So, like, it's not just, like, futuristic city. It's futuristic city where the centerpiece is a pyramid with an upside-down pyramid on top, and it's two triangles meeting at the point. Is, like, that's a very striking silhouette to have in the middle of your cyber city. It's very good at establishing those kind of shots where it's, like, there's just one feature element that makes it not just fade away as a set piece. Combat-wise, there is a combat system that, at least what I've seen so far, is 2 masks. I suspect there might be more as you go through the game. Where switching mask changes your combat style and your moveset, and it's basically just light attack, heavy attack, dash, jump, and you unlock some other abilities as you go that are mask-specific. Like, one of the early ones is being able to sort of throw a freezing projectile that can freeze enemies. I really like that one of these 2 masks, the sun mask, is very ballet-esque in its sort of, like, movement, the way that the character moves while wearing the mask, which for a masculine-coded, I haven't checked, but, like, masculine-coded main character is referred to as sun, so I'm going to assume male, to do these very, like, pirouette, sort of, you could put these character movements on someone, like, in performing in Swan Lake and they wouldn't look out of place, is really interesting. It's not a movement set you usually see for male-coded characters, and I think that's really interesting. I keep wanting to compare it to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which came out a few months ago, and this definitely feels more indie than that. Like, that is an unfair bar to compare things to. It really fucking spoiled me, that game. But it is a pretty well laid out, pretty intuitive to find your way around, narrative-heavy Metroidvania. Very, very plot-filled. The writing and voice acting are great in it. I have one problem, and it's like, it's not a big problem, it's just a thing that frustrated me. The game has optional challenge areas that you get unlocks for completing, and the very first one of them is ridiculously fucking impossibly hard. Why would you make the first optional challenge that hard? The difficulty feels really out of place, and I know it's an optional challenge. If this was an optional the first optional challenge, if this was, like, in the final area of the game as an optional challenge, I'd go, cool, that feels about right, difficulty-wise, for an endgame optional challenge. But this is, like, areas covered in one-hit kill spikes with no checkpointing in a rushing river, so it's moving really fast. You have to dodge under, jump over, dodge under, jump over, dodge under, jump over, all without, like, a single pixel-perfect mistake or one-hit kill. And I was like, for someone like me that likes to completionism things before I move on, this feels like you went you did not pick, it is so out of balance with the difficulty of everything else at that point in the game. It feels like they didn't have a great sense of how difficult to make the optional challenges. But that's my biggest issue so far with what is otherwise, like, a beautiful, really, really nice to listen to, a narrative-heavy Metroidvania that I'm definitely going to give more time to. What about you?
Well, you played an action brawler, I played an action brawler, you played a Metroidvania, I also played a Metroidvania, I played Animal Well.
Yes, I've not had time to play this because of work commitments, but I've heard a lot about it.
All I've heard about it is, don't let anyone tell you anything about it.
All I heard, and tell me if this is too much to know, is non-combat Metroidvania.
I would say that's fair. That's not spoilering, really.
That's about everything I know. And I've been led to believe there's more to it, that I shouldn't seek out that information.
Yes, I don't have that information,
No,
really. Or maybe I do, I don't know.
I'm trying to not get spoiled on it, but also I know I'm not going to get around to it for a couple of weeks, so I'm living in acceptance of I might not be able to go unspoiled, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, what can you tell us about this game?
It's tiny. It's like 30 meg.
Yeah.
Which I was impressed by. It's got an adorable, like, pixel art CRT filter style, graphical style. It doesn't do anything to explain itself whatsoever. Like, there's almost no text. Like, your first bit of text is press B to like, emerge. And you emerge from a flower.
Yeah.
Like a budding flower, spreads and petals, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm here now. Cool, I press B to interact and open things and pick things up. Sometimes I can use that defensively, I guess. Like, you can pick up, like, firecracker flowers that will turn into, well, firecrackers that you can use to get rid of creatures that will sort of be nosing at you or poking at you or try and eat you necessarily. Sometimes there's just weird floating spectre things that you need to basically cast light upon using the firecrackers. Eventually you'll get like a bubble wand and you can create a bubble that you can jump on.
Yeah.
And if you jump on it, it starts sinking down, which you can either use to sink slowly down into a hole that you've not previously explored, or you can use to make a little jump that you can just do a single jump off. And it's curious. Like, I have no idea what's going on with it. Like, there was a squirrel creature that I seemed to be following for a little while, but it keeps running away from me. And then I saw what looked more like a ghost squirrel. I don't know if that is the same squirrel with different lighting somehow, or what do. I've encountered some sort of demonic cat, or maybe a wolf. I don't know. There's weird statues around in the background. There seems to be unusual art on certain things. I'm enjoying, like, the puzzly aspect of it for the most part. Like, a lot of it is like, okay, here are a number of buttons. How are you going to get to the buttons? How will you press them in such a way that you can get to all of them without, like, one doing something that potentially blocks off the next one? That aspect I've quite enjoyed, but some of it is, like, very precise jumping, which I have really struggled with.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, especially in the very early sections of the game, the very precise jumping does not matter at all, because you are only going to fall down to the bottom of the screen you're on, and you can immediately go back. Like, you're not taking fall damage, no problems whatsoever.
Okay.
But as the game progresses, you might start to find that you are 3 or 4 screens away from the last save point.
Oh.
Which can suddenly mean that, especially if it's a particularly hard, set of jumps that you've got to make, then that can be a problem. Like, people with, like, better Twitch skills than me will probably have a much easier time. But for one example, there is a creature in a box with a switch, and it is just moving back and forth. And every time it passes the switch, it, toggles it.
Yeah.
Which makes some platforms appear and some platforms disappear. So you're sort of jumping between them with the timing of, this one's about to disappear, and I will land in such a way that I will land on that one as it appears without crashing my head into the thing that's about to appear above it as well.
Yeah.
And that was like 3 or 4 screens away from a save point. It's like, okay, I ran all the way through here, now I've got to try, like, this set of jumps. If I fall in the water, I lose health. I've only got 4 health. And then I just start back again. And, like, I think that was probably 6 or 7 complete restarts, plus the 4 lives. I wasn't good at that series of jumps. I'm sure other people will do much better than me, but that is my experience with it. Another one is, there's a, like, near where you get the bubble wand, there is a cavern, and there are 4, like, streams of bubbles coming up from below. And you need to basically jump across each of those 4 and onto the other side and escape. If you fall down, there is another very similar thing on the level below you. Where it turns out that those bubbles are being blown by fish in the water. And that you basically try to sort of jump across the bubbles, And it is a bit easier from down there. I'm not entirely sure why the lower down version of that is easier. And also I have a sneaking suspicion that at some point it kind of wants me to do a particularly tricky version of the jumps and go even higher. But I cannot work out, or I've not been able to do that on my own. And I initially struggled getting back across that big gap after having got the bubble wand, even with the fact that I could create an extra bubble to jump on. It was a bit of a struggle. But for the most part, like, I'm fascinated by what it's trying to do. I've enjoyed the artwork. I love the lighting, because it's not really something you'd expect to see in real old school games of the time, but like jumping into a light source that's on a chain hanging from the ceiling and then watching that sort of slide around is pretty cool. But yeah, really enjoying it, fascinated, curious to know what more there is, and yeah, enjoying that so far. That's Animal Well. What else have you played?
The only other thing I've played that I can really talk about this week is, I've been playing some of that new Vampire Survivors DLC.
Ooh,
Operation Guns. The, Contra DLC.
Yeah.
It's about £2, and you get a bunch of characters from Contra, and the gimmick for this one is that most of them are characters who have just a gun, and that gun, for a lot of those characters, will fire in the direction you're pointing. Not exclusively, but it's a lot of characters that sort of, at least before you've evolved them, play a little bit like the dagger throwing one from the base game. There is a big new map that is like the main new map for it, that comes with a new kind of accessory for evolving your weapons, which doesn't take up an accessory slot. It levels up one of your weapons and is a requisite for leveling up all your guns into their stupid, silly, overpowered forms. And then there is one other level that is a silly little gimmick of a level.
Yeah.
Main thing I could say about this new DLC, God, it puts some cool soundtrack in that game. There's some very good tunes in there.
There's some nice tunes, yeah.
It's very much what I expect out of a Vampire Survivors DLC. A handful of new characters and new weapons and a new place to play around with them. I had a lot of fun with this one. I think
this one's got more characters than a lot of the other ones.
It does. It feels like it's got a lot more characters and weapons, and I don't know whether that's just because they were working with someone else's license and were like, let's squeeze as much out of this as we can. Or, you know, whether there were expectations of this has got to be the best value for money DLC if you're working with our brand or something. But whatever it is, it's led to a lot of new stuff to play around with. And I don't think the fact it's basically all guns, like, there's a couple of non-guns, but I don't think...
Sword.
Yeah, there's metal claws.
Yeah.
I don't think it changes the fact that, like, it feels pretty varied.
Yeah.
There's definitely ones that are more my style than others. I like the sort of spread shot one. The laser gun's pretty cool.
Yeah. Especially once it's powered up.
Very much so. Yeah, how are you finding the DLC?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I struggled a bit working out what thing I needed to evolve. I think it was the spread shot, or no, it was the short gun. The second gun in the list. And that kind of gave me a little bit of a sticking point for a while, and...
Yeah. I had a little problem with finding some of the evolutions, and I think it was because, let's say I've picked up the short gun, and I want to evolve it. I'll pick up a bunch of accessories, and go, cool, and I'll pick up some of those briefcases that let me evolve the new thing's weapons, and then every time I do an evolve, one of those briefcases goes away, and something other than the one I'm trying to find the evolution for evolves, and all my briefcases are gone, and I'm like, did I not have the correct accessory to evolve this, or did I just luck out poorly, and, like, it kept not rolling the dice to try evolving that one? And that made it hard to find what the accessory was.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, we'll quickly explain the whole briefcase thing. So, every single one of the weapons in this DLC evolves using a special item of the briefcase, as well as another item, except for the normal gun.
Yeah.
The first gun, I think it's just called the long gun, which just needs a briefcase.
Yes.
So you do have to have that whole thing of, like, do I have enough briefcases? The briefcases are good because they will give you an extra revive,
Yeah.
and they don't take up a slot. So
and they level up one of your weapon items.
and they
once.
give you a free level up on something,
Yeah.
Something random. There is sort of ways of managing that. Like, if you are careful to only pick up 5 other items and the briefcase, you can always randomly have a chance of getting another briefcase. But you have to have got rid of all of the briefcases you already picked up.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a faff. But the other thing that is in this, and I can't remember if it was also in the lab expansion as well, because I've played the two quite so together so recently.
Yeah.
Was there's a new item recently that you can pick up, and it will give you it's like the candy box, but it's just for secondary items.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, previously, like every time there's been a DLC level, like the first time a character is introduced, there is always all of the items in the levels, like Foscari. In the Foscari. Curse of Foscari level, there was all of the secondaries you needed to upgrade every possible weapon in that expansion.
Yes.
Some of them would even just appear randomly because you were playing in those levels with those characters. But in this, I don't remember necessarily that... Well, the gauntlet, which is one of the things you need to upgrade, one of the items, is not in that level.
A few of them are there. Like, the wings are in the level, and that's for one of the weapon evolutions. There's a couple of them dotted about, but you're right. It's not doing the thing of all of the secondaries are somewhere in the level. Because what that would mean is you could get a new weapon in the DLC, run around the map and pick up every secondary, and go, cool, I know I definitely have what I need to evolve this.
Somewhere in here is the answer.
Yes, and this definitely sort of forced you to puzzle it out the way that you might do playing the base game for the first time.
Yeah, but even with the base game, there is a chance that, well, first of all, you're going to encounter a level that has the secondary somewhere, and that, I'm not even sure what triggers it, but eventually you play enough of the game, and it does start to give you hints about
the
what
Grimoire will start telling you part of what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas I did not... I mean, maybe I didn't play it enough that it did start to do that, but I played through a bunch of levels trying to unlock that one particular thing.
Yeah.
And there was also one unlock way at the end. Like, the last thing I unlocked was like, why haven't I defeated this thing? Because I've played through the... I did the adventure for it as well, which was really interesting. They made some really good use of the new tile set for that. But, like, there was one... like character, I was like, I haven't defeated this boss, and I realised that it's one of the gimmicks with this level and the adventure is that one of the things you do is you'll get like you did with the Among Us DLC. You get a warning of you like, go to this place and fight this boss.
Yeah.
You go to the place, you step on the little red thing,
you teleport.
You're sort of dropped into. Change from a top-down view to a side view.
Yeah.
To do the Contra boss that like goes through the big metal doors, and it's like a blue skeleton thing.
Yeah.
From the original Contra, and you can run up the walls like you could in that as well. But there is a boss in that area just before you go in to fight that final boss. That if you don't fight it and defeat it before you go into the boss, you obviously won't have got that achievement. So it was like, okay, I have to go to where I know the boss fight is going to be, go in there like right from the beginning, and hopefully that thing will turn up early enough. And it does. It turns up at like 5 minutes, and it's just wandering around in there. Yeah. And then I still had to wait like 10 more minutes to get to the point to finish the other boss. But there was a few things in this that felt a little bit more faffy, but overall I really enjoyed a lot of the weapons. I enjoyed the new characters. I thought there were some really interesting ideas.
I honestly think the two, like, tie-in to other franchise DLCs have been my favourite DLCs. Like, the Among Us one having, like, the Among Us one had, like, very varied, weapons and evolutions that were, like, very over the top. I really liked the rush to hit, like, turn off the alarm and get a guaranteed box that will give you 5 things and it'll level something up even if you're not at 10 minutes. The Contra one, I really like that it has the boss fight in there, that they have such a large number of new characters and weapons. The The map design's really fun on it.
Yeah, the main map, like the primary map for this, I really like the idea of that it is almost like a side-scrolling shooter of you're going from like your starting area, which is very sort of like destroyed city, to sort of wastelandy area, to like a weird alien environment.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of match that sort of progression you go through in the original game. I thought that was a really nice idea. Like, there are some great concepts in this.
Yeah.
Some really interesting ways of doing things, and I am glad there is still a lot of life left in Vampire Survivors.
And I'm glad that the tie-in stuff with other properties hasn't felt cash grabby. It's felt like they've gone out of their way to go, what unique weird stuff can we do with this?
Yeah, and they've also made the effort as more and more stuff has been put in to do things like adding the Seal 3 unlock.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who's like, I particularly don't want this weapon, eventually you get to a point in the main game where you can pick up an unlockable power-up called Seal. You then go into your collection of unlocked weapons and you can seal certain weapons away so they cannot appear. Which is a good way of like filter, especially if you're like trying to get particular evolutions as you're working your way through the grimoire. But like originally it was, I think, 20 possible locks you could get, or 20 possible seals you could get. They've just added a third one to add another 10.
Yes.
Because like there's firstly there's the free DLCs which have also added extra content. Then there's all the paid DLC stuff. Yeah. So it's good to go like, I just want to focus on the new stuff or something else.
You can shut out 30 things before a run starts, plus potentially another 10 banishments during the run.
Or more if you're playing as Sigma.
Yeah, so you can, with most characters in the late game post DLC, go, I don't want these 40 things.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think is a good smart choice. But yeah, you played anything else this week?
Yeah, I played a demo for a game that I've had saved, downloaded and saved and not sort of quite got round to. A demo for a game called No Players Online. This was originally an itch, short game proof of concept thing, which is still available as a sort of pay what you want concept game of, you're in a capture the flag type game. There doesn't appear to be anyone else around on the map, and then spoopy stuff happens. Now, this new demo is for a more fleshed out game that appears like it's going to have quite an in-depth plot, a lot of puzzle solving, and possibly even an ARG around it.
Okay.
And I got right into the weeds with this one very early on. So, you first boot it up, and there's 2 users that you can log into. It's very much done like an old, it's got CRT effects, but I get the impression that it's trying to do old, early 90s PC gaming. And you've got the whole Windows 95 style login screen is you can log into the 2 other people, but you don't know their passwords, or you can log in as guest. And you go on guest, and you can have a look around, and there's a Minesweeper game, just like there should be with any 90s PC. And you can mess around in the file structure. One example is you can go have a look at the ini files for the Minesweeper game. Too many mines? You just mess with any file. You'd set the default to 5 or 10 or 0 even. Instantly solved, instantly won. But there's also a dial-up internet that you can log into. There's a saved bookmark for a game dev website. And you can have a little poke around on there and see some of the posts. There's a whole backstory going on about apparently some of the servers where the website was being hosted got involved in a fire, and that's why a lot of the posts are either corrupted or unavailable on the website. You can do the risky business of downloading files that you find on that internet, including people's music that they've made, some good quality MIDI stuff in there. and play it on work out how to play it on your MIDI player on your computer, it feels very true to the style it is trying to invoke.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, me, who was around at the time, was immediately, before I'd even played Minesweeper, I was fucking about with the INI file because I'd found it on the hard drive in the file structure. I was like, oh, can I mess around with this? Oh, I can mess around with this. And it does make a difference. Like, at one point, you can download a demo for a game called Fishing with Knives 2, where you are just swimming around through the sea, and you can find you're basically trying to, like, not drown, so you go to the oxygen ship shop to spend money, or you just stab fish which explode, and that gets you money.
Cool.
Or you can swim to shore and get weapons to stab fish more effectively. But, like, even poking around in that game, there's, like, a whole thing of, like, you can change the INI file in that, like, what level up, what power-ups are you starting with? What oxygen power-up are you starting with? How much money are you starting with? So you can mess around with things like that. You can see all the assets for the game, like all the little PNG files for the different fish and the different weapons and the backgrounds and stuff. To the point where, when you see a giant, weird Leviathan fish swim by in the background, you can go, that's not in the assets. How that do? Why that do? There's a whole, like, conversation on one of the forums about the person who made Fishing with Knives, who is just a dick, versus like another person who's a musician was like, hey, your tunes are a little bit rough. Would you, I make music, I've put this together for you if you fancy. And, like, the other person being like, oh yeah, it's absolutely fucking horrible, and then ended up using it in the game anyway. Without crediting the other person or saying thank you even. And then, like, getting into the actual weeds of the game, eventually you get, like, IRC message from someone who's like, hey, I saw that you were on the Game Makey website, and, it's been really, really quiet there really recently, but, maybe you're also into, like, indie game stuff. Maybe we could play this cool Capture the Flag game I've found. Like, it's not finished, it's only in beta, but, like, it's still very playable. Just, you download this file and you start up a room and maybe we'll hang out and play together. It's like, okay, cool. There's every alarm in my head is like, why am I downloading any of this? There's no way of virus checking any of it. I'm very deeply suspicious. But, like, you download the file, you open it up, and you get into basically the Capture the Flag from the original Itch game. It's really dark, it's very blocky, it's got, like, pre-Quake style, like, map design, very blocky. Like, the draw distance isn't great. But you're sort of meandering around, and then weird shit starts to happen. And then, like, other plot starts to happen based on things. And I won't go into the hows and whys too much, but at one point you end up with another game that you've kind of made out of other games, somehow, won't explain how, that is seemingly telling a story about maybe the developer of one of the other games that you mashed up to make this game. While also being a psychedelic nightmare in, like, early Polygon 3D games that might also maybe be a really weird dating sim. It went some fucking places, but, like, I spent, like, nearly an hour not even getting into the game itself or even the plot of the game, just futzing around with stuff.
Neat.
I played it for about 2 hours. I am fascinated to see where a full version of this game goes or what is going on. But maybe video game have soul. Who knows?
Sometimes maybe video game have soul.
Sometimes. But that. The only other thing I've been playing with is I've been learning Flower Stick.
Yeah.
It's like Devil Stick, but it's a bit more flowery.
You've got 2 sticks, and then you use those to hit a stick back and forth that has sort of
Tassels
on either end.
Yeah.
And you sometimes make it do a flip before you hit it back with the other stick.
Yeah. I've got okay at that.
Yeah.
In a relatively short period of time. I'm learning. It's been fun to have another thing that's not super too strenuous on my shoulder, which poi sometimes can be. I love poi. But my left shoulder is getting worse and worse at doing the sorts of tricks that would be cool to be able to get into at this point. But also, I'm still learning poi. I'm having lots of fun with poi, but also just having a lot of fun with flower sticks. It's way less chaotic to do at home, and because it's quite lightweight and deliberately designed to be a bit slower. That it is way easier to just futz around with at home. And the joy of learning it is, rather than doing it all practicing on the floor, I can put it on the table in the living room, and it's about the right height for me to be like, I'm not going to drop it, and it's not going to clatter.
Yeah.
And I can just stand here for 3 hours and practice this and learn how to do this.
Hooray.
Relatively good exercise for that. Yeah, that's everything I've played.
Well then, time for this.
Okay, I've got the Unspeakable Book and the Black Candles. Okay, you've got the Chalk Circle?
Oh, yep,
Okay,
got that all drawn out.
Down, yep, and the Ash.
Yep, I've placed it at all the points around.
Yep, the Single Tier.
There we go. I've been trying on that for a bit.
Excellent. Okay, and I think we are ready to summon the Elder Chaos Gods.
Okay.
Mortars,
Hi.
Hey.
are you prepared for untold comforts beyond your imagining?
Pardon?
Yeah, sorry. I thought this was hells and horrors and terrors that my mind would explode at.
We are the Chaos Gods, and the world is already full of unspeakable horrors, so prepare for untold comforts beyond your imagining.
I mean, that sure is chaotic and unexpected. Oh my... It's so comfy. I think my brain's melting.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
God, I love being contrarian.
I'll never be the same.
Yeah. Cool. We've been waiting around for the squids to attack for a while, haven't it?
Yeah.
So you ever hear about that Neo guy in the old Nebuchadnezzar?
Oh, yeah, that, the one.
Yeah,
one.
say he's the one in it,
Yeah, broke out the Matrix, gonna be the one,
Yeah.
blah, blah,
we
blah.
all broke out of the Matrix.
Yeah, but apparently it's something special when he does it.
Well, yeah, but I guess so, Apparently, he took, like, a program for Kung Fu, and he knows all the fighting now, and he's super good at that.
I mean, those programs take, like, a millionth of a second to download. Why'd he stop there? Like,
Right, I mean, no one has, downloaded nearly as many programs as we have.
Exactly. Yeah, I bet he didn't download championship-level Cluedo skills.
Right? No one could be better at Cluedo than you are now, right?
Exactly.
No one, I bet, has downloaded, my top-level skills in Hedgetopiary.
Oh, yeah, I bet no one's I bet he ain't downloaded my knowledge of the complete UK top 100 music charts from 1972 to 1997.
Yeah, there's some good use there. I bet he's not as good at jazz tap.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah. I'll bet he didn't even bother with Ultimate Frisbee.
Why would you fail to download Ultimate Frisbee? That is one of my favourite programs, right? I bet he never downloaded the B-movie script.
Oh, that's a good party trick, that one.
Right.
Pro-level Opscotch. What's he going to do with Opscotch is part of saving the world.
He might have a knowledge of various fighting styles, but I bet he doesn't
have the D&D 5e grapple rule downloaded.
Oh no!
Yeah. So many people just like, oh, the grapple. Someone wants to do a grapple in my game. I've got to look that up. No, downloaded, mate. Downloaded, locked him in.
You know, he might have downloaded the Pokédex in English, but I bet that Neo did not download it in Japanese, French, German, or Spanish.
Right, and it's quite cool knowing that there's different variants of the names.
That bread dog is called Briochien.
Which I would argue is better than
it's bread dog,
English
right?
version,
That's so much better than Dax bun.
Right. Yeah.
Look, I might have picked up 1 or 2 viruses along the way, but I feel like he'd be better prepared to be the one if he downloaded all that stuff.
At least.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
Not put a lot of things in my eyes. It's been a busy work week with things that eventually I can talk about. But I did watch a film at the cinema because I have the ability to do so. I went and saw Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is a sequel, part of a long-running series of Planet of the Apes films. I have not seen any of the modern ones.
I think I watched the first one.
Quite possibly. My understanding going in was apes got smart, humans no longer in charge. There was one called Caesar. He wanted them to live in harmony, I think. That's about what I knew going in. And I will say this one did a decent job of, if you've not seen any of the others, getting you up to speed. Apparently, there was a man-made virus that caused human intellect go down, ape intellect go up. That's going to have an impact on the planet's ecosystem.
How the turntables have table turned.
And without getting, too in the weeds about it, the plot of this one is basically there's a very small number of humans that are capable of still thinking and communicating and that know of what humanity used to be.
Convenient.
And there's one ape who's like, hey, I hear that humans used to be able to do a bunch of shit that we can't do yet as smart apes, like flying in the sky like birds do, or talking across oceans. And particularly, I hear that you had really heckin' powerful weapons at some point, and there's this big locked bunker that I would like to go inside and have access to nukes, maybe, and tanks. I think that would be fun. I'm going to create monarchy and force all of the apes to come live under my rule so that they can try and force open the door. 'Cause I want bombs, please. And there is a lot to say positive about the film. I like a lot of the sort of world building it does of communities that have sprung up, not with any of the expectations of not based on humanity's expectations. You get weird little subcultures growing, and it's really interesting what they build themselves around and what their sort of rites and religious practices grow into. Very visually well animated, very good movement on this film that is largely a bunch of CGI animals running around. Easy to forget that it's a bunch of CGI running around, which is credit to it. There is a lot of compelling relationships between characters, and I like the portion of the film that is basically just your sort of very Lord of the Rings-esque. The thing has forced me out of the comfortable home, I must go on the quest portion, I think works really well. And I like a lot of the bits of the film that are about having an uncertain relationship with what humanity used to be many, many generations separated from their rule, and the people who still have passed down, oral traditions, what the situation used to be versus the people who, versus the apes who are some of the apes who are very willing to distort history for their own gains. That's all really interesting. This film makes some casting choices, and I would need to rewatch it to say for certain, but it feels like a film that was very, 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 very aware of I don't even know how to put this. This is a film that is very, very, very centering of white people in speaking human roles when they do appear. because I think the creators of this film were very cautious of negative stereotypes that could be pointed at, and went a little overcautious of that, and ended up creating some problems by trying to avoid problems. There's some weirdness in some of the casting in this film, and I would need to rewatch, but despite there being non-white people visibly on screen in the film, to my memory, that is only true of these are basically just animals people we see in the film, not any of the capable of speech human roles in the film are anyone but white people. And I have thoughts and theories as to how they may be ended up there, but yeah, some of the casting is real weird. And it feels like it feels like a long chain of casting decisions started in a good place and cascaded somewhere weird. And I don't know what to make of it. Also, some of the pacing choices with this film feel like they spend way longer than they need to on certain elements, and for a film that's like 2.5 hours long, doesn't give some of the more interesting plot threads space to be developed. It feels like it needed longer to do justice to some of its things, because it doesn't feel like a long film, but the problem is it wants to have like 4 different distinct acts, and ultimately it has to cut some corners to have those acts work.
Right.
It's a weird film. I don't dislike it. I had an enjoyable time watching it, even if it's a little messy. And it's a little awkward in places. But I loved a lot of the world building, and a lot of the like core cast of traveling characters I thought were very interesting. What about you? What you watched this week?
Things I watched. Things I didn't watch. The Aurora Borealis.
We did not see the Aurora. We were in bed at like coming up on 1 a.m. and found out Aurora Borealis was happening.
Aurora Borealis.
And we looked out the window and couldn't see Aurora Borealis from where we were.
And then everyone was like, it's happening again on Sunday.
And then it didn't. No, we maybe could have seen the Aurora Borealis if we'd gotten out of bed, put clothes on, and gone for a walk. But we you know, when you're like, we were getting into bed, starting to snuggle.
I was already naked.
Yeah, both of us, I'm pretty sure, had our clothes off. And then we learned there was an Aurora Borealis. If we'd found out like 15 minutes earlier, I think we'd have probably gone for a walk to see it.
Giving it a whirl.
Oopsie. No, we were in bed mode.
Oopsie doodle.
But I'm glad people I know got to see Aurora Borealis, localized entirely in the United Kingdom.
Yeah. Apparently there will be one last solar flare hitting tomorrow. So we may see something tomorrow
Cool.
night.
Will people talk about it like more than like 2 hours into it happening this time? That would be cool.
I mean, I've just told you about that now, but
yeah,
that was pretty cool thing. I've seen people's pictures of it. It looked very pretty. But some things I did actually see. I've been watching the final series of the Oxventurers Guilds on the Outside the Xbox, or I think it's just the Oxventurers Guild channel now.
Yeah, how's it been?
It's been really good. I feel like there's probably only 1 episode left now, and it's going to be hard to say goodbye to the main cast, but I think they are doing a great job of going back and visiting all the places and people we've seen, and a lot of the characters, and refreshing a lot of that stuff. I mean, I know Johnny's the DM, but also, like, there is one character I felt that very much feels like the most self-insert of all self-inserts and self-referential. And, I think it's going to be difficult, especially now that Luke's left Outside Extra as well.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to feel like the final splitting of the team. Even though Luke said he'll like come back and do Oxventure stuff, it just won't be the Oxventurers Guild anymore. They are retiring those characters.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens when you manage to get a long-term D&D group together. Eventually you level up to a point where it's just like, I think we've told all the stories with these characters.
Yeah.
Can't say I've played a campaign long enough to do that myself yet, but yeah, it's Yeah, it's very sweet and still very punny. I appreciate that.
Yay.
And yeah, it's been good fun, and I look forward to whatever they do next. Have you watched anything else?
I've been doing a lot of just watching stuff in the background while working, honestly. It's been a lot of backgrounding.
Yeah, I might have watched more things if I hadn't woken up at 12 on Sunday and then spent most of the day repairing a sofa.
You did! It's a much better sofa now. I spent the day on the other sofa doing work at the weekend, because I didn't know when I was going to have time to do it otherwise. Secret work. I'll probably tell you about it eventually. Secret work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in that case, time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, want more easy make advert text?
Maybe?
Wish to better save time via automated, lifelike, not at all, even slightly a little unusual text?
I suspected there was some unusual in there.
We can help! We bet you had no idea this ad was written using our fully perfection system data.
I mean, I had a suspicion something was up.
Error cannot generate untrue marketing statements under current model parameters.
Uh-huh.
Try now for today, only 1 hour per weekly long special offer.
Uh-huh.
That's AI Assist Store 2024.lol.net.bin. It's available.
It sure is. I feel like my ability to form sentences based on language input of the past has gone down listening to this.
No, it's probably fine. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, we got a marketing problem.
Right.
So, you know how we like money.
I love money.
We make more money when more people buy Call of Duty.
Yeah, money.
Yeah.
Money good.
Exactly. And, like, half the people who buy Call of Duty are kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously we don't condone it, but we know that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, some of the parents are starting to wise up that our game has, like, guns and murder and stuff in it, and
Right.
they don't want their kids to play it.
Right.
So, I've been working on some things that I think might let us sneak our way back into children's homes again.
Right.
I know that sounds bad.
That does sound pretty bad.
Sneak the games into their homes.
Yeah.
Get the games in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're like Santa.
Yeah, we're kind of like Santa.
Cool.
So, here's my idea. What if we made a box art variant for Call of Duty?
Right, like a slipcase that just hides the game.
Yeah, or, you know, we send it, we sell shops, it's like, it's a limited edition variant cover or something.
Yeah.
Like, they do
We'll
that with
charge
comics,
extra,
right?
extra for that, right?
Yeah, but it's like, it still technically says Call of Duty, but, like, it's,
Right.
you know, a field with some blocky characters and, like, you know, child-friendly stuff.
Yeah, we'll make it look like the building game.
Yeah, something like that. And then maybe we put a toggle in the game that's like, oh, your parents are coming. Click in both the analog sticks at once, and it goes on a colorful mode, so your parents won't know you're doing violent murder game.
Right, it's like they used to call them boss keys way back in the 90s. You know, you press like F11, and then you know everything it looks like an Excel spreadsheet.
Exactly. For a second, it's like, you're throwing rose petals at your friends in a nice little field.
Yeah.
You threw the ball to them. That's quite nice. Okay, they left the room. Click the button again. It's murder.
Murder.
You were doing murder.
Murder.
You were
Guns.
throwing bullets at them with a gun.
I love throwing people. I love throwing people. I love throwing bullets at people with a gun.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think we're
The
on to
American dream.
I think you know it's a little bit of additional work, but I think with this in place,
We
could
won't be doing the work.
Exactly. You know, it's a little bit of money spent, but once we can sell to the kids again, money go up. I think it's worthwhile.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, what have you put in your ears?
Not a lot. It's been real heavy on the work recently. So I'm gonna be leaning on you a little bit for this
You're
one.
gonna lean on me?
Well, actually, there's one thing we both listened to that
Yes.
you've put down in the list.
I have.
Yeah.
I think you probably listened to it last week, but I forgot to put it down, and
Yeah,
I've listened to it significantly more this week.
Yes. Do you wanna bring this one up?
So the new track that's been floating around by Macklemore, it's called Heinz Hall.
Oh, is it another silly little song about going to a thrift shop and buying your granddad's old clothes?
No,
No, it's not, is it? No.
it's about Palestine.
It is quite a direct song about Palestine.
Yes.
And it's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, and apparently all the money raised from it is going to charity to help Palestinians, which is very important right now because shit is real fucking bad. Last I heard, it doesn't fuck around.
It does not fuck around.
No, there's a lot of like not gonna believe what is being said on the news, not gonna put up with corruption, not gonna put up with the government, who are quite frankly complicit in this, especially in the US. We have the students now doing a lot of the organising, which is good. That the police can absolutely get fucked.
Yeah.
In reference to that, and that we, especially we who are on social media, are seeing a lot of this shit firsthand. So you can't really deny any of what's being said, really.
Yeah.
If you were asked, if you are a boomer who still gets all of your news from reading newspapers or watching like news media, you might not know some of this stuff.
Yeah,
But
I mean, there is a reason that several US politicians on the right wing have explicitly said the reason they pushed for a TikTok ban is because TikTok was showing a bunch of videos from Palestine.
Yeah.
And that
From-
was not
direct
good.
from Palestinians.
Was not good for the anti-Palestine messaging.
yeah.
Yeah, to give a sense of that song, I'm going to read just like a little tiny bit of lyric to give you a sense. Seen the rubble, the buildings, the mothers and the children, and all the men that you murdered, and then we see how you spin it. Who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance has always been about dollars and the colour of your pigment. I'm like, yeah, you're not fucking around there.
Yeah.
It's a good fucking track.
Yeah. I need to listen to more Macklemore because I was watching a TikTok the other day where someone was like, Thrift Shop was not the beginning of his career.
Yes, I was watching I was
I
listening
think we
to
might have been watching the same
Yes,
video.
talking about his first album, the second track on it is, I think,
White
called White
Privilege?
Privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is explicitly, like, being very directly self-aware of his own position as
I'm a white person doing hip-hop.
Yeah, I'm a white person doing hip-hop and rap, and, like, that comes with completely different connotations because of the colour of my skin.
Yes.
And I'm like, he did a lot of very direct political music early in his career and does apparently continue to do so, but the one silly little song about, like, oh, I'm wearing your granddad's clothes from the thrift shop is the only thing that blew up.
The weird thing about Thrift Shop is I hadn't heard the original for ages.
Yeah.
I only knew it because there was an electro swing version of it that kept being played out at a rave I went to.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was Macklemore at that point, but yeah. It's a good track. It's visceral, and I think a lot of people are hoping to get it heard more because nobody's promoting it.
Yeah.
The just lyrics version, the video, because there is a video for it on Macklemore's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
The lyrics only version is still age restricted on YouTube. Like, it's being deliberately held down. Like, initially I was like, yeah, but it hasn't officially been released yet. So it's probably not going to be on anyone's charts particularly. And that was like a week ago. It kept showing up everywhere on TikTok with people saying it's being, like, suppressed.
Yeah.
But now that it's actually out and, like, I haven't heard it from anywhere else, and when I went to look for it on YouTube, it was, like, specifically age restricted.
The number of TikToks I saw from people who were like, I put that song as the audio of my TikTok, and I was just doing some knitting and saying nothing, and my video got deleted after 20 minutes. And I'm like, yeah. But no suppression of speech going on, none whatsoever. What about you? If you put anything else in your ears?
I listened to a nice little mix called Arcade Nights 80s on the Nostalgic Synthwaves with Synthwave channel on YouTube. It's like a 2-hour mix of synthwavey tracks. It's just good background, nice driving, your good gated snares. Good for feel nostalgia, but very much in a way that was not exactly how it was at the time. But yeah, very much enjoying that as a vibe to get on with other work while I'm just getting on with things.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's just been very, the classics. Lots of MCR, lots of random drum and bass that I've talked about a bajillion times on here before.
Yeah.
That's about it for me.
Well then, time for this.
Do you struggle with impulsive buying?
Yeah.
Do cool things you saw on TikTok turn out to be utter shite on arrival?
Yeah.
Do you regret the purchase the next time you check your bank balance?
Yeah.
Put it on Regret It card. Our special debit card is accepted everywhere, and with the help of our easy app, we can return your regretted items with zero fuss. Hell, we'll even collect them and repack them for you. Make the best decision of your poor decisions with a Regret It card.
I sure won't regret that. Right, everyone come in. Grant approval committee. We would like an extension on our grant, and in order to do so, I feel like we should probably show you some results of what we've been working on in the lab. So time to present to you our latest findings from our ongoing study. Seeing how wild of a lie about the world we can get children to believe.
Indeed. In this study here, you'll see just how many children we managed to convince that they could watch a short documentary about Peppa Pig by putting ham in the DVD player.
Oh, indeed. And you can see here, we've convinced a small child that if you run around backwards while the television is on, the show will rewind.
Here you'll see that, this is another sandwich meat-based one, but we managed to convince the small children that the clown loaf is actually made of clown.
Oh yes, there's a lot you can convince children about lunch and meats.
They are
very susceptible
there might
to lunch
need to be
and
a whole
meat.
separate study on child-based lunch and meat susceptibility.
Indeed. We got one of them to believe something about bee procreation involving using the stinger.
Yes.
We spun in some real stuff about how the stinger works, but sort of convinced them that's how children happen.
Yes, and there was also, it seemed like there was some anglerfish in there as well.
Indeed, there was. Look, we just got started with the stinger is how you make babies. We went no further than that, and they really convinced themselves of some things. Honestly, you barely have to give them a prompt, and they will just believe some truly bonkers shit.
Here's a study where, in the process of making baked beans, you take the can just before you seal it up and send it off from the factory. You have to put it in a soda stream that's full of farts, and then you just pump more farts into it using the soda stream technology, and that's how they get into the beans.
Oh, that's one of the more elaborate ones, but they followed through once we explained what a soda stream was. We got them on board with it.
Indeed.
In conclusion, we would like to keep this research going. We will need about £800,000. We are open to suggestions on what things you think we can convince these children of. They're very susceptible and gullible.
Do you think they fell for it?
I hope so.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Virtual Justice Warriors.
Virtual Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Larry.
Alright, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, yeah, not I'm doing my best, mate. Doing my best. You doing all right?
Oh, about the same.
What's you been up to much?
I've been thinking about empathy, just generally as a thing, and it's always hard understanding how people could be unempathetic when you're an empathetic person. It just feels like it would be natural to be empathetic.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about, like, if I had to try and sum up in, like, one sentence, like, what you have to think to be empathetic, I think I got something.
Right.
In order to be, like, the kind of person who wants good things to happen to other people, you have to fundamentally believe that, like,
in the future, people should have things better than you did in the past.
Yeah.
I think that's, like, honestly, like, 99% of having empathy is just going, this thing shouldn't be bad just because it was bad for me.
Yeah.
If it's better for people in the future, that, you know, they shouldn't have to have it bad because I did.
Yeah.
I should be delighted that the thing that was sucky for me won't be for them.
Yeah, it's that whole, getting over that attitude of primarily boomers of, well, I went through this and it didn't do me no harm. I went through this horrible trauma and, it didn't do me no harm. Yeah, but what if no one had to go through the horrible trauma? No one had to, be, abused or
Yeah.
suffer any indignities in the same way that you did. And in fact, rather than going, well, you have to because I went through it and therefore it's unfair on me if you don't also go through it.
Yeah.
Breaking that, cycle of trickle, and it seems to be one of the few things that does in fact trickle down.
Yeah.
Is, the abuse and the hardships and the suffering.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say is one of the things you said there, and it's one of the things I say all the time is like, I suffered through X, Y, and Z. It didn't do me any harm. Well, it clearly did because it's turned you into someone that has no desire to see things improve for people other than yourself.
Yeah, you seemingly want the terrible thing that happened to you to happen to other people.
Yeah, in which case I would say you haven't come out of it that great.
No,
if you want bad things to happen to others.
Exactly. I understand, the desire in some cases for retributive justice, but that's not the same as, well, that small child is, not suffering, with untreated mental health problems or learning difficulties or unassisted learning difficulties just because you didn't either, want the better things for future generations. But unfortunately, I was going to say that generally the people who have suffered the most end up becoming the most empathetic. But, there are clearly a good number of people who suffered a lot and, have let that fester in them and, turn into something toxic and, now they want it for everyone else.
Well, I think there's three parts it goes. There's, I suffered, so I think that other people should suffer like I did. There's, I suffered, so I'm gonna pick someone else to suffer so that I can feel powerful in place. And I suffered, I don't want that to happen to others because I know how much it sucked.
Yeah, sadly, that is only 1/3 of I think is a good outcome of those.
Yeah.
That's young, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good dog, mate. Good
Yeah.
dog. All right, I think I'm going to have a little lie down.
Sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Yes.
you do things, and those things go on the internet, and people would probably like to find those
do,
things.
yeah.
Where do?
You can find me basically everywhere on the internet at Laura K. Buzz. Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the places, Laura K. Buzz. This week there is a new Control-Alt-Access episode that'll be up, a video going into spoilery depth on the accessibility issue that came up in Hades 2. Other than that, the main thing to look out for is the Accessibility Summer Showcase is rapidly approaching. That's on June 7th at 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. I've seen some of the videos for that, some of the stuff that's going to be in that showcase. I am currently working on a place where you'll be able to find all of the things that are in the showcase in one place together. That's pretty exciting. We'll talk about that soon. Look forward to the AA showcase. I've been working my socks off this year to do some new things with it and to push it forward a little bit. Yeah. And I'm hoping it will be an even more successful showcase of cool accessible games this year because I put a bunch of extra work in.
Yeah.
What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
I don't have unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linkter.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find the things I've written, the music I've made, the t-shirts I've designed, all that good stuff over there. You can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. So Laura,
Yes?
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.